Now, we've got to talk about Cranky Albo. We've shown a bit of this already, but here's Albo on Sky with Pete Stefanovic this morning.
You lied. You were deceptive doing that.
Guess what, Pete? Well, if I did, so did Peter Dutton, because they voted for it.
Okay, so
they voted for it.
But might you be lying again?
They voted
on this?
for it. No, and I don't accept the premise of your question, Peter. What happened very clearly was that there was a massive change in circumstances.
Very prime ministerial, Tim, isn't it? You know, well, if I'm a liar, he's a liar too. Oh my God, he's getting a bit rattled.
It's not exactly an elevated discourse, but I would point out, though, that I think quite a few people have noticed that Anthony Albanese is now repeating the line from the stage 3 tax cuts that, you know, that's not our plan, which apparently these days means, once you decode it, it means, what does everyone else think? Are we okay with this? Can we change our minds without everyone, coming down on us like a ton of bricks? So he's now in the planned stage of planning, if you like, and we'll see how this unfolds from here. But once he's saying it's a plan, I mean, I think it's odds on. It looks like the changes he's talking about, the things that cost Labor the election in 2019, you'd have to say they're odds on now.
Well, I suppose the other interpretation, Mark, is that Albo doesn't really know what's going on because Jim Chalmers hadn't told him.
Well, that's right, mate. You saw him looking down at his notes the whole time when he was on that interview with Pedro and when he was on with the Today Show as well. He didn't even know his own numbers, so he barely has a grip on this. But yeah, you expect when you're going in for an interview with Pete Stefanovic that it might be a little back and forth. But he had a couple of friendly ones. He had the ABC last week. He had the Today Show as well this morning. I think he got out of the wrong side of his little race car bed this morning. Something must have gone on. You're right. He's rattled. He's tense. He's got something going on. I reckon, I tell you what, Prime Minister, you obviously need a bit of relief. I'll shout you a Thai massage. Get in touch. It's on me. It's a cost of living crisis. Get some relief. Man. Calm down. It's good for the country.
Now, speaking about good for the country, Kim Williams, the new chair of the ABC, he's railing against fake news, which is going to win him a lot of friends at the ABC, I don't think. But there's another piece of his speech that was pointed out to me by a very switched-on observer. Let's get your thoughts on this. Have a look.
Many of our younger journalists have a much more activist view of the role of journalism and a much more policy prosecutorial approach to their journalism.
Yeah, so the activists and the political bias is all the young journos, Tim. Apparently the Laura Tingles and the Fran Kellys and this lot, they're all the beacons of objectivity.
Yeah, I remember there was an especially youthful chap called Jonathan Green. I think we've dealt with him a few times. A guy from Radio National, again, Radio National, the Triple J of 2024. But I remember him being sucked in years ago by people should look this up on Google, the Aileen Composter scandal. And the easiest way to trick someone at the ABC into publishing something that's wrong is to give them something that they feel is right. And that's what happened in the Aileen Composter disgrace. Very funny episode. But yeah, the ABC often runs stuff. We've seen with its coverage of military scandals, especially going right back to when the ABC alleged that Australian Navy men were holding asylum seekers' hands to red-hot exhaust pipes on Australian Navy vessels. Yeah. Tell them what they want to hear, and they'll run it every time. There's
so much fake news. Yeah, that's another one I'd forgotten about that story. Absolutely. And this is the thing, Mark. I'll tell you what, if you're a young journo at the ABC, you'd be pretty dark about that interpretation because it is the older journos who have led the way on all of this political bias and political campaigning. And they're still doing it.
Well, that's right. Yeah, 100% right. And you're seeing it when they're spreading their ideology outside of what outside the confines of their job. So they're setting a terrible example. He's partly right. The whole joint's filled with activists. That's what it is. Kim Williams. It's a really nice phrase actually. It's all wretch and no vomit. Unfortunately, he came in there saying that he was going to clean it up, but it's always the same. It's more fake news and more hypocrisy from him. He's sitting in a bathtub. It's filthy water. He's trying to clean it from the top down. It's not going to work. He's just got to pull the plug. That's the only way.
I've not heard that expression before. It's particularly apt and particularly colourful. I'm going to try and move on for it. Speaking about young activists, this clip I'm about to show you covers some very serious topics, but it is just so mad as to be laughable. Have a look.
In Palestine and all over the world, the fight against colonialism and corporations' destruction of the planet are intrinsically linked. As Israel bombs hospitals, homes and schools in Gaza, Chevron supplies them with energy. Ending Israel's genocide in Gaza and Israeli apartheid is a climate justice issue.
As I said before, it is literally insane. It's that absurd, Tim, to be talking about colonialism and genocide and climate change and corporatism all wrapped into one. But what scares me about it, this is exactly the sort of mumbo-jumbo we're getting at university protests and then reflected by leftist politicians in the debate, and that's actually driving some of our weaker governments to be so pathetic on this issue.
Absolutely. And where's the thanks? Now, Israel goes to the trouble of not bombing a bunch of Hezbollah lunatics, not raining bombs indiscriminately, instead taking them out with very climate-friendly, very minimally disruptive pages. I would have thought that would be worth a tick in Greta's book, because not only are they using tiny little handy explosives, none of those Hezbollah guys are driving cars anymore, are they?
They're not at all, and they're certainly not answering their phones. Now let's go to the US, Mark. I've got to get your thoughts on this, because we do like to sort of challenge ourselves every now and then with some words of wisdom from Kamala Harris, because I think the insights are worth sharing with everybody as often as we can. Here's the latest.
Let it always inspire us. Let it always be the source of our optimism, which is that spirit that is so uniquely American. And let that then inspire us by helping us to be inspired to solve the problems.
I'm inspired to be inspired, and I'm finding it quite inspiring. Is that all vomit with no retch?
Yeah, it's similar. It is. It's all retch, no vomit as well. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's just you can tell when she's gone off script, actually, because normally she's not looking at the teleprompters left and right. She's looking around, searching for any other word that came from the focus group.
She was searching for inspiration.
The Obama focus group that she sat in. Yeah, she's searching for inspiration or dreams or an ambition or America or something. Unburdened, whatever it might be. Yeah.
All right, well, if you think she's pretty bad, let's have a check-in on the guy who's currently in the job.
Thank you. Welcome to Washington.
All right, now that is the serving President Joe Biden. Thank you. Welcome to Washington. I want to show it to you again now, and look below him. There's a sign saying where he is.
Thank you. Welcome to Washington.
Welcome to Washington in New York City, Tim. Maybe he was up in Washington Heights.
Bit of a clue there on the stage. I mean, he should have had those words in front of him. Maybe that was a mistake by the organisers. That's the sort of, large print volumes that probably the last book he read 17 years ago had that sort of large print so we could get through it. But I just add to what Mark was saying before. When Kamala Harris is wandering around and her eyes are rolling back, what she's looking for is a full stop, and she never finds it.
And someone's got to find it. Thanks for joining us, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Tim Blair and Mark Nicholson.